What is going on, Trash Talkers? We are back with another episode for you. Today we start off by congratulating the Los Angeles Lakers on winning the 2019-2020 NBA Championship, their 17th title in franchise history. We break down Game 6 of the NBA Finals and discuss the growing concern that the NBA is losing viewers. Then we move over to Major League Baseball, where we take a look at both the LCS matchups and discuss how the Astros and Dodgers can attempt a comeback. Finally, we head over to the NFL, where we break down all of the major news from Week 5, including Dak Prescott's horrific injury, the firings of Dan Quinn and Thomas Dimitroff in Atlanta, and an NFC West contender losing their best player for the season. As an added bonus, we discuss the New York Jets' decision to release running back Le'Veon Bell and debate where he might end up next. All that and much more coming your way right now. Nick, it has been a roller coaster ride of a week. We saw a champion being crowned. We saw teams eliminated from playoffs, and then we saw some great gameplay in the NFL and some horrific injuries. Overall, it's been just an incredible week, and not incredible isn't totally great, but just overall, just
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. It's been, like you said, it's been a roller coaster, and I think that's really the perfect way you could describe what's happened. I mean, we started off with, we have the highs with the Lakers winning it and LeBron getting his 4th title and being named MVP. But then you suffer some tragedies with the injury that Dak Prescott suffers the day that Alex Smith makes his return as the quarterback. Like, it's just unbelievable how life.
If that doesn't give you goosebumps, I don't know what will, because I just got goosebumps listening to it, and we've talked about it ad nauseum at this point.
Yeah.
I want to start off the show before we get into any topics, before we talk about anything. I hope Dak Prescott makes a full recovery. It was horrible to see when it happened. And you and I were watching the games together. We were talking about it as it happened. Thankfully, it was addressed right away. Gordon Hayward, who suffered the same injury in the NBA, has reached out. Alex Smith has reached out. So he has some support there with people that have gone through the same thing. I am hoping that he will be able to recover. I hope Jerry Jones does the right thing by him. But we'll get into that much more in detail later. All right, let's start off with the good news. Huh? I like my good news first. So the Lakers defeat the Miami Heat in a Game 6 blowout to win the championship. The NBA obviously didn't have the season that they were looking for, with COVID taking over halfway through and, postponing some things. But I have to say, I'm very happy with the NBA, with the product they were able to put out. They got no COVID positive tests, and then on top of that, they were able to get all the way through the finals and actually crown a champion. Your thoughts?
It was great to see that the NBA was able to put this on, and it was really the first sport that came back for us, and it was something we really needed. And it took me a minute to really grasp, the importance of having it back, because I think I've just taken sports for granted my entire life. Right. And I was fine with going without it for a couple months because I'm just used to an off season. And when it came back, I was, it was like just starting up a new season again. But watching it, it was just something that brought me excitement, something that took my mind off of everything that was going on around me. And that's something that has been a lot different, and that I can really thank the NBA for, because it has been a real game changer as far as uplifting the mood of everybody that's been watching, and really changing the direction of everything that's going on.
Yeah, for sure. I was happy to see that the players came out, and I have to commend the players that decided to come out here because I believe we saw some of the most competitive basketball that we have seen in a very long time. I think these players being inside the bubble, being in this atmosphere, it kind of reminds specifically this generation of players the about the AAU type feel that they go through, where they are all basketball all the time. That's all they have to think about. There's no outside distractions, and you get basically the best possible product that you can possibly have. And I think the NBA has to be very proud of that fact.
No, they definitely do. This is something that I don't think we would have gotten in a regular setting if there were, players were allowed to go home, and that's it has to be said like that because the players just aren't as focused when they're going home to their families or they're able to go out and party or there's outside distractions. You're not focused on one thing, and that's all they had to do was figure out how to improve day after day. And that's why we saw some of the best basketball, and that's why it was so great to watch. So it was fun while it lasted, but I really don't expect this moving forward. I don't expect to see this intensity moving forward.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Obviously, for those of you who don't know, the NBA has obviously pushed their 2020-2021 season back because the NBA Finals just got over this past weekend, and now we're headed in. Technically, the season would get started in about 2.5 weeks.
Mhm.
I mean, that's not a lot of time for free agency, for trades, for what
Even
everything the NBA
recovery.
off. Yeah, recovery for. I mean, you talk about the Heat and the Lakers putting it all out there. All these teams that were in the bubble. They need some time as well. So it looks like right now the beginning of January is the expected time for the NBA to come back. But there's an interesting storyline that I kind of want to follow with the NBA, and that is that the NBA Finals had the worst ever year that they've had in the modern era as far as viewership is concerned. According to Bloomberg News, the NBA Finals ratings were down 51% year over year, and the NBA and the owners are concerned about the lack of viewership overall. Do you think has something to do with the just the timing? Because again, we're talking about a finals that's happening during football season and also during Sunday night football. Um, or does it have something more to do with like the social justice type of things that were going on as well? Or do you think it's a mixture of both?
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of both, but I think more so it's the NFL, and this is a topic and what I really thought of when the NBA was deciding to come back during this time, and when the finals was going to take place. I knew that the NFL, which is the biggest sport in the United States, was going to come first and foremost for the majority of households around the country. And it didn't matter that it was the finals and the Lakers were on a run doing this for Kobe, and the Miami Heat were doing something so unprecedented, beating the best teams in the league. It just wasn't appealing because football is just so much more exciting, and it's I think when you watch basketball in the bubble, once you see it once, you've seen it all, and you're really just checking box scores at that point during the game. You'd rather see something that has more excitement with the NFL. And so scheduling during those times really hurt the NBA.
Yeah. Obviously, this was something that was supposed to be watched, and I had a feeling, and I think we had discussed this off camera a little bit, that this could possibly be something that happens. But I took a look at this article and everything that they had to say, and TV viewership in general is down. People are cutting the cord. So I think you have to take that into account as well. But a lot of people are focused on the election. A lot of people are focused on news and the coronavirus and everything else. So you're taking your normal viewership, which happens in, the end of May, early June, mid June. You're taking all of that, you're bringing it to the beginning of October, It's football season, it's election time, there's a global pandemic going on. There's everybody's attention is just so diverted elsewhere. I think there's a lot of different things that attribute this. And you know what? I'm also going to attribute some of it to the social justice messages that they were sending. Not that I believe that they are a bad thing, but I know of specific people and specific groups of people who just do not want to hear or see or just interact with anything that has to do with anything but sports when they're watching sports. And I can understand the sentiment. When you go to a football game, when you watch basketball or you play baseball, the last thing you want to focus on is something other than the game. You take the time to use your viewing experience to get away from all the things that are happening in the world. And as positive I that as positive of a message I think the NBA was sending, I think that some viewers just didn't want to deal with it. They didn't want to see the different messages written on the back of the jerseys. They didn't want to see all the messages written on the court, and I think they had enough and they didn't want to watch it. So I think all of those factors combined led to the 51%, which is a massive percentage. I mean, that is definitely a cause for concern for the NBA.
Yeah, I think it's something that they should be concerned about a little bit, but I think it's something that'll correct itself. Once things start to clear up, players are back at their home stadiums and there's crowds in the seats. I think that things are going to start to turn around and the ratings will start to go up.
Yeah, it should also be noted that Mark Cuban, the owner of the Dallas Mavericks, was specifically critical of the NBA and their marketing strategy around the the NBA Finals, saying that they didn't do a good enough job. They didn't pour enough of their revenue into basically propping up this matchup. They didn't try to sell the history of the Lakers and the Heat. Instead, they just tried to do like LeBron. And like that's cool and all, right? LeBron James is a storyline in and of itself, but there needs to be more. If it was Lakers Celtics, I have to imagine that they would have poured more into it. If it was, Lakers Clippers conference finals or something like that, that would have had higher viewership. Like, and not that I want the league to have a say in who's winning and who's losing, because I don't. Whoever wins wins, and I understand that's going to take a dip in viewership. But the fact remains that people had a foregone conclusion that the Lakers were going to win this series. The Miami Heat skated by through the Eastern Conference. Even though they deserved to be there, they just weren't in the same class as the Los Angeles Lakers this year. All right, so I think we should move on to the other sport that's in their current playoffs, the Major League Baseball. A lot of storylines to follow there. Most importantly, my favorite, the New York Yankees getting bounced from the playoffs.
All right. All right. You know what? How about I give you 60 seconds to say whatever you want?
I don't need 60 seconds. I already said it. The Yankees were bounced from the playoffs. The Rays defeat the Yankees in Game 5 to advance to the ALCS. Not surprising to anyone who had an objective mindset. With that being said, I believe that the Yankees are in a good spot moving forward, but they need to find some pitching. They need to address some specific issues that they have, including their aging roster, like Brett Gardner. Even though he played really well in the postseason, he doesn't play well during the regular season. Giancarlo Stanton, is he the perennial MVP candidate and all-star, or is he the guy that's striking out 300 times a season? I mean, which guy are you getting? I think they need a little more stability in their rotation as well. I want your thoughts though on the state of the New York Yankees.
Listen, I'm fine with the offense the way it is. I really think that the Yankees found a new catcher, and it's time to move on from Gary Sanchez. And I know a lot of people think that he's going to be looked at as a washed player, somebody who holds no value, but I disagree. I really think that there are people that are willing to take a chance on him, somebody that needs bats and could use a new catcher. There's plenty of teams out there that would take a chance on him, and the Yankees would just take either young players or people who are in the farm system, they'll work with them, and you can have Gary Sanchez, but I think that the Yankees really need to focus their attention on relief pitching and probably getting another starter in there because Garrett Cole can only do so much. And
So who's the catcher you think is going to take over?
it'll be Higashioka. I'm probably saying his name wrong, but I really like him. He's got to be a little bit more of a consistent batter and work on his offensive game. But the things he was doing behind the plate, absolutely amazing. I can't imagine how many runs that Gary Sanchez would have given up with the amount of balls that would have been bounced behind him. It would I don't think this game would have gone to game 5 if it weren't for Higashioka. He is just an amazing defensive player, and that's what the Yankees need to balance out the team.
Yeah, for sure. I don't like to give the Yankees credit in any stretch of the imagination, but they do have a very good team, and they've built it up the right way. They do have some glaring holes that they need to address, and I truly do believe that the Rays were the better team in this series, and just overall, I think the Rays are the better team this year. Um, as for getting rid of Gary Sanchez, though, I can't imagine that you wouldn't try to utilize him in another capacity, like possibly moving him to DH or something like that.
I mean, what do you do with Giancarlo then?
I mean, that's a good question. Do you hang on to Giancarlo?
Did you see him win us all those games? Because I did.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. He is so inconsistent. There's a guy. This is the same guy that strikes out 300 times,
right, and that's
hits 35 homers to 40 homers a year.
I don't think you can let go of Giancarlo. I think there is a place for him, and he needs to be managed better. And I think the next year is going to be huge for Aaron Boone. Like, if he can't get the Yankees all the way next year, then I think it's time to get rid of him because this lineup, this team, is too stacked for it not to go to the World Series at least once during his tenure.
I mean, yeah, to throw Garrett Cole and who's the other
Tanaka.
pitcher you got? Tanaka. I mean, that 1-2 punch as your starting pitchers are just absolutely dynamite. That's not something that you can let go to waste at this point.
No, luckily Garrett Cole's still under contract for another 8 years, so he'll stick around. And Tanaka, I know he was dealing with injuries and he's been a little bit inconsistent, so hopefully he can work back from that and get better. But I still think the Yankees are one more starting above average starting pitcher away from going to the World Series.
For sure. We'll see. I mean, every year presents new challenges, and everything else comes to fruition and what it takes. But nonetheless, the Rays did move on, and now they're facing the Astros, and they're up 3-0 on the Astros. I mean, just an absolute explosion offensively and defensively. They are just holding these bats down. What have you seen from this series that gives you either cause for concern for the Astros or a sigh of relief that maybe they can make a comeback?
I think it's just the mental errors that they're making. I mean, if we look at what Jose Altuve has done, 3 errors in the last 24 hours, he has been he lost them their last game with the errors he was making, and the series could have been a lot closer. It's just you've got to focus on what you're doing and not get too concerned about what's going on around you. So they've really got to just hone in on what they normally do is be great, and I think they're getting too worried. But also, I think it's just karma biting them right now. I think this is everything coming back at them for everything that's happened, and honestly, they deserve to lose. I hope they get swept in this series because they don't deserve to be in this spot right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think ultimate karma would be for them to go to the World Series and get swept by the Dodgers, who they've beaten in this exact position. But I agree with you. I very much dislike the Houston Astros. I think they're a shit organization who cheated their way into the position that they currently are. I think that they were propped up by their cheating ways, and right now I'm not willing to overlook that. And you can tell me all day that Carlos Correa and Jose Altuve and George Springer, and all these guys are, all-star candidates, and they're great players. That's great and all. But as soon as you start cheating to win, as soon as you start doing something that is going to give you that competitive advantage, all that talent is lost in my eyes, because now you're in a position where you just have the unfair advantage, and you can utilize your tools to even further that success. So I think that's, I'm happy the Rays are up, even though they're a division rival of both of ours. You being a Yankees fan, me being a Red Sox fan. Overall, I'm happy the Rays are up 3-0, and I don't see a situation where the Astros come back. I think the loss of Justin Verlander is just too much to overcome for them. I just don't believe they have the requisite talent to match up pitching wise. Offensively, they can definitely score runs. They can score with the best of them, but pitching, I just don't think they have the requisite talent to be able to. I don't think Zach Greinke is enough for them to take control of this series.
Yeah, that's definitely a huge part of it. And listen, it's going to be tough no matter what when you're down 3-0 in a series and you have to win out. That's a near impossible situation. So it's going to be tough. It's really going to be tough. And a good job by the Rays for being that resilient, having to play in a game 5 and then 2 days later having to play 7 straight games, or what would be 7 straight games, against the Houston Astros. That's a hard challenge, and they're handling it extremely well.
Yeah, for sure. On the other side of the coin, we have the Braves and the Dodgers. The Braves are currently up 2-1 on the Dodgers in the NLCS. What do you believe needs to change for the Dodgers for them to continue with this comeback chance that they have going right now?
I think they've got to do stuff on both sides of the ball. Their pitching has to step up, and their bats need to start getting going. And as we're recording this right now, they're in the middle of Game 3, and we just saw them put up 11 runs in the first inning, which is exactly what they needed. Now, I think that's a little excessive, but I think that's exactly what you need to do.
Not excessive enough.
Yeah, we want 13 runs in an inning. Yeah, I think the Dodgers, of all teams, have the ability to course correct instantaneously. I think they have much more talent than any other team that's playing right now, and I think I'm shocked that the Braves have made it this far. So I think Atlanta's got to really make sure that they're not giving too much momentum back to the Dodgers, and that their defense stays strong. Their bats are there. I think they just need to make sure that their defense and their pitching specifically stays strong.
Yeah, I mean, the Dodgers currently have Julio Urias on the mound, and I don't believe that he's going to give up this game, which is why I say 2-1. But I believe that the Dodgers have the talent to overcome the deficit, and if they can pull this game and make it the 2-1 series, then they're only a game behind from tying it up, and then it's a 3-game series from there. And if you had to choose between the Dodgers and the Braves to take a 3-game series, I'm taking the Dodgers. It's just that simple.
100%.
They're headed by the best player left in baseball. Like, out of the 4 teams, the best player is Mookie Betts by far and away, and that is their leadoff hitter. And their lineup just gets strong, stays strong all the way down. So I don't believe that any pitcher is going to be able to get through their lineup and hold them down for too much longer. I think that they had their early struggles against the Braves. And right now that in Game 3, they are currently showing why they need to be respected as the number 1 contender for the MLB title.
Now, if I was able to go back and change my prediction from the Dodgers to the Braves, I would, because I still think I think the Braves have what it takes to make it to the World Series, and I think they have enough to get past the Dodgers right now.
I just don't see it. I don't see. I see the Braves' offensive output, but I don't think they have the pitching to get through this lineup over and over and over again.
I think they just want it more. I think the Dodgers are just too confident. They're too confident in their abilities, and they're not proving it. And I think the Braves are using a lot of heart to get past the Dodgers, and they're willing themselves into this position.
But that's what you saw in the first inning of Game 3, is when they scored 11 runs, is because they were like, okay, maybe we were feeling ourselves a little bit too much. Time to get back down to reality, get this thing going, because we haven't won a damn thing just yet.
I just the Braves need to make sure they're not giving too much momentum back to the Dodgers, where they're just going to run away with it. I think that the momentum is mainly still with the Braves, and they need to answer back. I'm not saying they need to win this game or that they're going to, but I think they need to start put up some runs and make this a competitive ball game where the Dodgers start questioning themselves again and their abilities.
Yeah, I just don't see it. Like I said, I believe that the Dodgers have the requisite talent. They are on paper, they're the better team. I think that they were just feeling themselves a little bit in the early part of the series. And right now they've gotten back on track, it looks like, and they should be able to close the series out maybe in six. But it honestly looks like, this is the Dodgers show and the Braves are just playing around.
We'll see.
All right. So we had some breaking news earlier this week, and it kind of caught us by surprise. On Tuesday, Le'Veon Bell was being shopped by the Jets, and they told his agent that he could start looking for a trade partner and everything around it was a little interesting, right? Coming from the Jets organization, because Le'Veon Bell was brought in, even though he was brought in by Mike McCagnon, he was brought in to help Sam Darnold, give him a bona fide weapon to help him. Obviously that hadn't been the case, and, things have been struggling, and obviously he didn't get along with Adam Gase, the head coach, and just things went south. Well, on Tuesday night, in the middle of the Tennessee-Buffalo football game, the Jets informed Le'Veon Bell that he was being released after no team was willing to take on his contract. They released him. They set him free to the world at 4 p.m. Wednesday, today, at the time of this filming. He was a free agent. What the hell is going on in East Rutherford, New Jersey?
Well, I mean, I think this is pretty simple. It's Joe Douglas saying, well, Adam Gase doesn't want him. I didn't want him. I didn't sign him to this ridiculous contract. And he's not in our long-term future. So let's move on from him. We're going to have to pay him at some point. We might as well get him out of here now while, and let's cut out the cancer that he was starting to create in the locker room while things are not as bad as they might get. So I think this it looks bad. It looks really bad. There was no other situation that they could have been in. That no one was going to take on this contract. No one wanted to pay him his contract next year, and there's no other situation. What are you going to do? Hold on to a guy that doesn't want to be there, that doesn't want to play for your coach? It's just a sticky situation, but you're going to have to cut your losses.
Well, so the Jets, by releasing him, they still owe him $6 million for this season. And on top of that, they have, any money that he gets from whatever team he chooses to sign with is then offset. So in my opinion, it doesn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense for Le'Veon Bell to sign a deal that is above the veteran minimum unless it's for more than $6 million. Because if I'm Le'Veon Bell, I want the New York Jets footing that entire bill, or as much as it is humanly possible, because I want them to realize that they made the mistake, and that's going to hurt them in the long run.
I mean, we're also talking about Le'Veon Bell, who didn't want to play under the franchise tag with the Steelers when he would have made $13 or $14 million that year, and he decided to sit out, wait a year, and then got $16 million a year from the Jets. I don't know if he's willing to play for less money if he has the opportunity to sit at home, go on his jet skis in Miami, and collect $6 million for doing nothing.
Right, but if you take a look at his social media and you take a look at what he's talked about and what he said, he is ready to win a championship. This is something that he has been longing for. He has not had that opportunity. He was close a couple of times with Pittsburgh. They never got there. Obviously, being part of the New York Jets, he had never had a shot. That franchise is just being dismembered left and right from all sorts of different angles, and it just seems like if I'm Le'Veon Bell, knowing what I know from what he's posted and what he's talked about in interviews and whatever, he wants to win a title extremely bad. If I'm him, I'm going to a contender for a veteran minimum, because at a veteran minimum, let me show the rest of the league that I can still do Le'Veon Bell type things. Let me show that I'm still the same guy that came out of Pittsburgh. I'm not that little guy that the New York Jets tried to showcase. I can't help that they had tackling dummies for an offensive line. I can't help that there's no other receivers to be taken seriously besides myself and Jamison Crowder. A defense that lets up more points than a high school JV team. I really don't understand. I don't understand how he can be disvalued so much. And I think he needs to prove that, you know what, I'm the guy. I'm that perennial Pro Bowl player. I'm that guy that was an three-time All Pro. I need to be respected, and he can get a bigger contract somewhere else if he takes less money and proves it this year.
Right. He wants to play for a contender. Now, can you name me a few teams that are contenders and need a running back right now?
It need a running back? No.
Yeah, so I don't know where he's going to be a number one, where he's going and in a contender situation that he's going to prove that he is worth a long-term rich deal. He's not going to fulfill every single task that he wants. He's not going to get everything. And he's going to have to...
But there are definitely teams that can utilize his services. And I mean, I can name a few teams if you'd like. The Buffalo Bills come to mind. I know that they have Devin Singletary and Zach Moss is hurt, and they kind of like TJ Yeldon, but he could provide absolutely a whole different option for their offense. We saw them struggling with the passing game out of the backfield last night. I think he would help Josh Allen's accuracy a lot. You talk about a team like possibly Arizona or a team like Houston who could use a running back. Those teams, I mean, they may not be number one contenders, but they're still in it. There's still a possibility. And then I know Chicago, they lost Tariq Cohen. They need another back to offset David Montgomery. He could help take the load off and be the guy there.
They need a running back to replace David Montgomery.
Yeah, but if Le'Veon Bell can go to the 4-1 Chicago Bears, take the starting job from David Montgomery, and show that he's the old Le'Veon Bell, how do you not pay him in the offseason? Any team.
Well, this is the thing I've noticed about Le'Veon Bell in his career. Throughout his Steelers career, he was amazing. He was 1,000 yards rushing, almost 1,000 yards receiving. And I think that strength came because he was behind an extremely strong offensive line. Now, what has he done with the New York Jets in that offensive line, which is pretty comparable to the rest of the NFL? He hasn't done much. What, four touchdowns? Okay, you might get a little bit of improvement some places, but you're talking about the Bears average. You're talking about the Houston Texans average, probably the same as the Jets, honestly. Arizona Cardinals average. They're just not going to be great. He's not going to get that offensive line that he had in Pittsburgh that let him rush for so much. He likes that hesitant style of running where he'll stand behind a blocker and look for an opening. He doesn't get that with an average offensive line.
Outside of Mekhi Becton, the rookie, the Jets' best offensive lineman is named Chuma Edoga.
You're telling me that's not true.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. You're telling me that's the offensive line that's going to make or break his career? That's the offensive line that you're going to judge his play off of? There's no shot. We're talking about the New York Jets just end the season. That exact organization.
It's not like he's shown a glimmer of hope or had a couple plays that were dazzling, and he's shown that he has that ability.
What's he supposed to do? Defenses take a look at the Jets. They're like, we're stopping number 26. Let everybody else beat us.
At least Frank Gore can break off a 15-yard run once in a while.
Frank Gore hasn't topped 60 yards this year as a lead back. Le'Veon Bell was out for 4 weeks with an injury. And Frank Gore didn't do jack shit.
Le'Veon Bell hasn't done anything in his Jets career. He hasn't done anything.
Because it's the Jets. You're not taking into account the Jets factor.
You have go back to last year.
Black hole for talent. They are absolutely garbage.
Go back to last year. No, let's look at last year when they had Crowder and Robbie Anderson and Quincy Enunwa, and they had Chris Herndon, who actually knew, and Chris Herndon, who knew how to catch the ball, and they had
got hurt in week 4.
Listen, they had a lot more weapons, and he still was not able to do a single thing. This guy has scored 4 touchdowns in his Jet career. He hasn't been able to do anything.
The Jets have scored 4 touchdowns since last year, and they've basically all been Le'Veon Bell.
Listen, we're starting to see...
They are a black hole for talent. They are a black hole for just players in general. If I'm a player on the New York Jets, I'm like, get me to the CFL, get me to the XFL, get me the fuck out of here. I do not want to play at MetLife. I do not want to play for this team. Adam Gase is an atrocious coach, and from what I've seen, I have not liked the moves that Joe Douglas has made.
Listen,
besides the draft.
Robbie Anderson showed flashes last year of him being a great wide receiver, and now look at him in Carolina, the things that he's doing right now.
He's a bona fide wide receiver 1. I understand that. But he showed flashes of that last year.
We see flashes from Sam Darnold. When Sam Darnold is on his next team, we're gonna see that he's actually a really good quarterback.
Yeah, no shit. I'm with you on that. I'm telling you.
So Le'Veon has not had a single play that has gone past 19 yards. He has not.
You're talking about in the last year and a quarter. When the rest of his career showed you that he is a perennial all-pro candidate.
He has carried the ball 300 times in his Jet career, and he hasn't had one big play. I don't care if you don't have an offensive line. You don't always get everything that you want or you need to work well. But you got to make do.
It's not having an offensive line. It's about having just anybody else around you to take away some defensive mindset or focus, because if you're game planning for the Jets at last year or up until this past weekend, 26 is the guy I stop. Everybody else, if they can beat me, fine. 26 is the guy I stop.
Listen, Le'Veon Bell should be
hard of a game plan.
No, he should be versatile enough where he should be able to elude defenders and he should be able to make plays. We see Jamison Crowder, who was barely anything in Washington, come to the Jets, and now he has a revitalized career.
Yeah, because they put him all over the field. Adam Gase didn't like Le'Veon Bell, so he didn't utilize him properly. I'm telling you, you are misguided on this take. You are following into the footsteps of Adam Gase. You are saying that I believe Adam Gase's head coaching ability is dictating the value of Le'Veon Bell. That is what you are saying.
No,
and I am saying you are absolutely
I'm saying players
outside of your goddamn mind.
No, I'm saying players who have been in Adam Gase's system that have shown glimmers of success have gone other places and been great. Le'Veon Bell has shown nothing. Nothing.
So let him sign for the veteran minimum this year. Why is that so hard? Why did you sign him for a veteran minimum?
Because if you put him behind an average offensive line, he's going to continue to do nothing.
Then you gave up what, $1 million and nothing owed next year?
Right, and you also have to
giving up.
You have to also take on his personality. You have to take that on and
release him.
He also has to learn a brand new system in the middle of a season.
No. He's a running back. He does run.
No. He's a running back and a wide receiver. Don't get that wrong.
Right, and guess what? He wasn't utilized in New York. A fucking wide receiver.
It doesn't matter. Make the most of what you have. He didn't do anything.
Can't. Oh,
what do you mean he can't? He has the ball.
You know what? You're a Jets simp. I'm done. I can't.
Listen, I could care less about the Jets. I'm glad they're in the position.
You are on the Adam Gase bandwagon right now, because what you are telling me is that Adam Gase's head coaching ability dictates Le'Veon Bell's worth to every other team in the league, and I'm telling you that type of thinking is completely and utterly wrong.
If you take Le'Veon Bell right now and put him on the Miami Dolphins, Gaskin is going to be a better running back than him.
No shot.
100%.
No shot.
You're
bugging.
Chase Edmonds is better if they're both on the Arizona Cardinals. David Montgomery, as bad as he is going to be better on the Chicago Bears than Le'Veon Bell. Listen, even if you probably put him back with the Steelers,
insides cry.
Even if you put him back on the Steelers, Jamison Crowder is better. James Conner is better.
Jamison Crowder is better?
Shut up.
Okay. We're just gonna... I think you need to get a tattoo. It says Jets Simp right on it.
No, I could care less about the Jets.
Fuck. All right. Anyway, he is a free agent. What teams do you think that should look at him, even though you don't think any team should look at him?
I didn't say that. You are twisting my words. I said,
okay,
don't expect him.
Simp.
Don't expect him to be the Pittsburgh Steelers Le'Veon. Expect him to be more like the New York Jets Le'Veon.
Why can't he be somewhere in the middle or closer to Pittsburgh?
It depends on what offensive line he's running behind.
Get him to New England. Come on, Bill. Yalla yalla. What are we doing?
Get him
behind our offensive line.
Have you seen the Patriots offensive line? It's not the best.
It's a top 5 rushing offensive line. I don't know what you're talking about.
With injuries every single week, so
we deal with them.
Okay.
Anyway, can you answer the damn question?
Yeah, number 1 team, the New York Giants. I think he's already there. He doesn't have to go anywhere, and Saquon's out, so he'll get all of the reps. He'll get an entire year to prove why he deserves a long-term deal and a rich contract. So this is a perfect opportunity for him. They just brought in Devontae Freeman, so he's pretty replaceable. And there's really nobody else.
Devontae Freeman too.
Right, but if you could have Devontae Freeman or Le'Veon Bell, you're taking Le'Veon Bell. You're gonna.
Sure. So I drop Wayne Gallman and I pick up Le'Veon Bell. That's what happens.
I mean, my number 2 team would be the Chicago Bears. David Montgomery has not worked out. Tariq Cohen is gone for the season, and this team may have a chance of actually doing something, even though I think they're very overrated right now. So if they want to give Nick Foles the biggest chance to succeed, they'll go get Le'Veon Bell. And then I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a team that's all in on this season, that they've been signing veterans left and right. I think this is the guy they need, because Ronald Jones is getting 10 targets a game and catches about 2 of them and drops every other one. Or they're going to the defender's hand. Ronald Jones is a pure running back, and he's great at running the ball, but he can't catch the ball for his life.
So this is what they signed LaShawn McCoy for. And
LaShawn McCoy is dust. LaShawn McCoy is dust. He is absolutely nothing. He should have retired 10 years ago. He has been bounced around the league, and no team can figure out what to do with him because he can't do anything. You know, I think that Le'Veon Bell could have some success. This is an above-average offensive line. I think that he would be a great target for Tom Brady when now they're still down Chris Godwin, Scott Miller is hurt, and Mike Evans is banged up still. He's throwing a guy named Tyler Johnson. So I think Le'Veon Bell would have a nice fit with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I don't know. We'll see. Like I said, my teams we had some teams overlap. I talked about the Bears. I believe that, even the Indianapolis Colts, that's not a bad one. I think that they could utilize his services, even though they have Jonathan Taylor. I don't like Nyheim Hines all that much. I think Jonathan Taylor and him could do really well this year.
Jonathan Taylor hasn't even been given a shot. He barely gets any rush attempts as it is. They're trying to throw as much as they can with Phillip Rivers for some reason.
Yeah, well, old man Rivers, his arm, you talk about dust. That's where that arm is.
I'll put him and Shady in the same category.
Probably. All right. Let's move on from this topic. I can't believe what I've heard from you. We need to move on before I have an aneurysm. All right. On to some real news, unfortunately. As we talked about at the beginning of the show on Sunday, Dak Prescott suffered one of the most horrific injuries in the NFL. He suffered a compound fracture and dislocation to his ankle. The fracture protruded his lower leg right through the calf muscle, or right around the calf muscle, I should say. He had emergency surgery. He was rushed to the hospital. They brought in a specialist to do the surgery. From all indications, they were able to take care of everything. They don't expect any setbacks right now, and they're currently monitoring him for a possible infection, which is what you fear when the bone protrudes the skin. That being said, this is the same injury that Alex Smith suffered. This is the same injury that Gordon Hayward suffered. Those guys, like I said before, did reach out to him. It's estimated that he'll be off that leg for 4 to 6 months, and he will be ready in the first quarter of next season. They're not sure if he'll be able to start week 1, but at this point, I don't know. It depends on how the setbacks work, if he'll be able to come back for week 1 or not. Do you believe that the loss of Dak Prescott is the end of the season for the Dallas Cowboys?
It's tough to say because I want to say no because I believe in Andy Dalton, the Red Rifle, as I like to call him. And I believe in this offense. I think that you still have Zeke, you still have CD, you still have Amari, and you still have Michael Gallup. I think that's plenty of weapons on offense, but it's really the defense. Now you don't have Dak to throw the ball for 500 yards a game and keep the team in it. The defense has got to step up, and it's a real matter of can the defense keep a team below 20 points. I believe that Andy Dalton can put up 20 or more points a game. I believe that he has the weapons around him. If you go back to the weapons he used to have in Cincy, he was doing that. He had some Pro Bowl seasons with some great weapons, and now he's back in that situation again. So I have faith in Andy Dalton and his abilities, but it's really a matter of can this defense now step up because the team needs them more than they needed him before.
Yeah, I'll say that I believe that Dak Prescott, as gruesome of as an injury it was, excuse me, I can't speak today. The biggest loss for the Dallas Cowboys ended up being left tackle Tyron Smith. Tyron Smith is the anchor of that offensive line. He's the anchor of the offense, and he's a team captain. He has been one of, if not the best left tackles in the entire NFL his entire career, and he is now out for the season after having neck surgery. I think that is going to prohibit them from being able to be successful. Now, we look at the NFC least, as I like to call them. You have the Washington football team, the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Dallas Cowboys, and the New York Giants. The New York Giants are currently winless. The Washington football team hasn't figured out which quarterback they're going to run with at this point in time, whether it's going to be Dwayne Haskins, Kyle Allen, or Alex Smith. It's a toss-up for the week. Carson Wentz has nobody to throw to in Philadelphia besides Miles Sanders doing anything that he can. That defensive line looks really good in Philadelphia, but on the back end, I don't know what they're doing. And then the Dallas Cowboys defense can't stop a nosebleed. So they have a shot to win their division. I think they'll just be bounced in week 1 of the playoffs. I don't think they can step up with the teams like the Saints, the Buccaneers, the Bears, the Packers. I don't think they can handle those guys. And when you talk about the teams that they're going to face in the playoffs, those are the teams right there. Those are the teams that they're going to be put up against. And I just don't think I think they've suffered too many losses. Dak Prescott is a huge one. I don't necessarily believe in Andy Dalton, but I believe in the pieces around him to be successful. I believe in, whether it's Mike McCarthy or whatever, I believe in their offense to score points. I just don't know if they can replace Tyron Smith. And they've also had plenty of other injuries across that offensive line. But I just think the offensive line is what's going to hold this team back without Tyron Smith.
I think there's a lot of competition, whether you want to think so or not, in the division. I think Washington is going to figure things out. You mentioned that they're trying to figure things out at quarterback. Kyle Allen, they've already said, is their guy moving forward. And just because he gets injured doesn't mean he's losing the starting job. Kyle Allen he's going to be running.
The same thing about Tyrod Taylor.
Well, they don't have a Justin Herbert sitting in the wings. It's just not how they're not in that situation. So they are going to use Kyle Allen in that Carolina Panthers system. They're running that same offense. That's why Antonio Gibson is getting a bigger role with Kyle Allen, and then Terry McLaurin. And don't forget about this defense, this front seven that is absolutely monstrous. And I think that it's just more of a complete team than you're giving them credit for. I'm not saying they're going to win everything, but I think they should be taken seriously in this division. Now,
In this division of basically losers, I mean,
now
if you compare this division to the rest of the league, I think you put these four toward the bottom five.
well, I really think the Eagles are starting to find their rhythm with the weapons they have, and they're only going to get better as some of the players start to come back. This defense is absolutely playing lights out. They're playing great. They gave up a bunch of touchdowns to Chase Claypool, but if you look at everybody else, they stopped them. So they're figuring things out. And you look at Carson Wentz, he's starting to figure out how to play with these guys. I mean, you see a guy, Travis Fulgham, who came out of nowhere, then has been going off for 10 catches a game. And he's starting to make do and learn. And Doug Peterson is starting to prove why he is still a great coach. So I think that the Eagles are probably the best team in this division, and I don't think that Dallas is going to be able to compete with them.
I disagree. I don't believe in Carson Wentz. I don't think he is the same player that he once was. I just don't believe in the back end of this defense outside of Darius Slay. I think that Big Ben was able to torch them with Chase Claypool, a rookie, through the middle of the field. They have no safeties that are able to stop anything. And any corner that's not named Darius Slay is going to struggle every week. So I mean, that's fine if you have Darius Slay on the best receiver, whatever, good for him. But it's going to be up to the pass rush every single week to get home, because they are not going to be able to cover for very long on the back end. They're going to have to figure out, Jim Schwartz who's their defensive coordinator, he's going to have to figure out how to mask their inefficiencies on the back end.
You know what? It's a long road for every one of these teams, and it's going to be tough for them to do anything outside of the division. And I agree with you. No one out of this division is going to make it past the first round of the playoffs. But
yeah,
it's still, I still think the Eagles have better weapons and they're a more complete team than the Cowboys. The Cowboys are so lopsided right now, and their coaching staff has just been horrendous this entire season. What's going to change from week 4, week 5 to week 16, 17?
A hope and a prayer. That's all I can say. Like I said, I don't believe in this entire division. I think all these teams have more inefficiencies than they can really account for. And I think all 4 teams are going to have to go back to the drawing board, see what worked, see what didn't, and then move on from there. But I believe that this is a huge, we're masking over the fact Dak Prescott was a huge loss for the Dallas Cowboys. They were lucky to have a player like Andy Dalton waiting it as a backup quarterback. It's just unfortunate. I hope that Mike McCarthy will try to bring in somebody like that's a seasoned veteran that can back up Andy Dalton, maybe create some sort of competition at the quarterback position. But
now, real question.
What's up?
Should the Cowboys look at signing Colin Kaepernick?
100%.
I think he 100%. He would add another layer, because Andy Dalton, he can take off a little bit, but Colin Kaepernick adds a true third dimension. It's now run, pass, and option with him.
Yeah, Colin Kaepernick, I don't want to take anything from Aaron Rodgers, but Colin Kaepernick can do a lot of things that Aaron Rodgers can do, not to the same effect, obviously, like the precision passing, but he can still throw the ball down the field. He can still run the ball. He's got wheels. He can maneuver in the pocket. He's shown that ability to do those sorts of things. I think that if he were to come and prove that he's in football playing shape and ready to play football, I think the Dallas Cowboys would benefit from having him as quarterback. I think the issue more lies around the fact that Jerry Jones may not want to bring Colin Kaepernick in.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into that because we all know Jerry is a very thick-headed owner and is set in his ways, if you will. So
that's the politically correct way to put that. All right. Speaking of another owner, Arthur Blank for the Atlanta Falcons has clearly seen enough with his team. They fired Dan Quinn and Thomas Dimitroff after going 0-5 Dan Quinn had been on the hot seat all season long. It just got hotter and hotter as they blew 2 major fourth quarter leads. And, here we are. Thomas Dimitroff, the general manager, also ousted, which was kind of a shock to people, but not really. He hasn't done a whole hell of a lot to bring requisite talent in outside of maybe Calvin Ridley and
Todd
some
Gurley.
defensive players. Well, Todd Gurley in free agency, but I'm thinking more along the lines in the draft. I just didn't see, they had some great players, Deion Jones, Keanu Neal. I can go through and name some, but they didn't end up panning out over the long term. They were short term options. With that being said, where do you believe the Falcons go from here? What do they need to do next to rebuild?
I think it really starts with the defense. I think that Matt Ryan, I think he can figure it out. And I know a lot of people think, oh, without Julio, he's absolutely nothing. He's shown that in his career. I think he's going to learn to get better with Calvin Ridley over time. I don't think he's taken the initiative to really get to know the tendencies that Calvin Ridley has, and so I think there's a chemistry issue there, and I think they can figure it out. It's really the defense. The secondary is really bad right now. I mean, you lost Desmond Trufant, you lost a bunch of your safeties this season, injury, and the depth is just lacking. And there's nobody, like, it's literally Grady Jarrett and Deion Jones on that defense, possibly Vic Beasley if he has any talent left, but there really is nothing else. It's bare bones, and they really need to start bolstering up that secondary and work down the defense that way. So I think that's where they really need to start their focus. And then once the defense is mostly figured out, that's when you can start to look at the offense, because that offensive line is solid. You've got a running back in Todd Gurley who's been getting a bunch of touchdowns for you, and Calvin Ridley, it's a bona fide star, and Julio, if he can get healthy, could definitely be of value. So there's plenty to work with on the offensive side of the ball.
I think the biggest issue that happened for the Falcons was the loss of Kyle Shanahan. After they lost that Super Bowl, they lost Kyle Shanahan as well. So you're compounding 28-3 comeback in the Super Bowl to your number one coach being gone. And I think the entire offense kind of left after that as well. And then it took its toll on the defense, and then defensive players left because they didn't want to be put in such precarious positions every single time. So that's when you saw those players start to disperse. I believe, and I can't go a week without saying his name. I believe that the Atlanta Falcons would be best suited for a coach like Eric Bieniemy. I think that he, honestly, though, because of where this offense can be, I see him extensively growing Calvin Ridley, growing that offense, and doing a lot of different things. Now, my real question is, do we think that Matt Ryan is still the quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons moving forward?
I mean, I think they definitely need to draft somebody in next year's draft for sure. You need to start grooming somebody, because Matt Ryan, he needs to start passing along that knowledge. He only has a few more years left in him. He's an aging quarterback, and his abilities are deteriorating.
Right. So my thought was, would it be crazy to think that there could be a Matt Ryan reunion with Kyle Shanahan, since they're in a quarterback
absolutely
right
not. No. The league is moving away from the pocket passing quarterback. It's all about the third dimension that a quarterback can bring, and that's with their feet. You need to have that ability. Matt Ryan is one of the few quarterbacks remaining that are not that don't have any run ability. I mean, you see Tom Brady and Drew Brees and Phillip Rivers. Look at what those guys are doing. They just don't fit in. They are not helping their team, and so I think that they'd rather stick with Jimmy Garoppolo and work with him than they would bring on Matt Ryan.
Yeah, it's interesting. I heard it posed by a couple of our fans on social media who reached out to us, and I wanted to just bring up the topic. I thought that it'd be very interesting to possibly think about what Matt Ryan could do in place of Jimmy Garoppolo, who was benched at halftime this past week, or what him and Kyle Shanahan were able to do in the year they went to the Super Bowl. I think they could recreate that in San Francisco, especially with the defense that they're touting. Maybe next year. I think that'd be an incredible acquisition if they can make that happen some way, somehow.
I mean, if the Niners actually want to move on from Jimmy Garoppolo, maybe he wants to go to Atlanta. Can you imagine what Garoppolo can do with weapons around him?
Do a good QB swap?
No, not even. Let Matt Ryan go float away. I don't really care. Bring in Jimmy Garoppolo because he can you look at what Jimmy Garoppolo is working with now. It's absolutely nothing. Deebo Samuel's working his way back, and they just really there's nothing there for him. Put him with Julio and Calvin Ridley and Hayden Hurst and Todd Gurley. This team would go a lot further. They'd probably have a win by now.
It's very possible. I just believe that, there's a possibility that the Falcons do move on from Matt Ryan, and with the quarterback issues that San Francisco is currently having, I wouldn't be too shocked if that's where he might end up, even just as somebody who is there to bring in the next echelon of quarterback.
Well, it's certainly not Nick Mullins.
That's for sure. All right. Well, we have a couple more topics to get through. One of which just recently happened. So this is, I think, the first ever year that we've had Tuesday night football. Tuesday night football was consistent of the Buffalo Bills and Tennessee Titans, who did test negative for COVID for the first time in about 6 years. They finally played the game. They finally did it. Hooray. After a dominating victory, are Ryan Tannehill and the Titans a much better team than Josh Allen and the Bills? I mean, this game was just a blowout.
Yeah, I definitely was surprised by the Tennessee Titans. To think that Corey Davis was not playing because he's out from COVID, Adam Humphries is out due to COVID. You're left with 3 players on the offense that he's working with, and the running game really didn't get going all night. I mean, Derrick Henry had 50 rush yards in the entire game. So to see Tannehill work extremely well with the weapons he had was absolutely amazing. And yeah, you can make the argument that Tre'Davious White wasn't playing, so Josh Norman, who in his second game was thrust into a position against A.J. Brown, that's a tough matchup, but there's plenty of other weapons on this Buffalo Bills defense to stop the passing game, the passing attack. Yeah. It's one of the strongest defenses in the league.
I mean, they Poyer and I forgot the other safety's name, but I mean, those guys are incredible.
Yeah, Micah Hyde. You want to talk about a high school JV team? Look at the Buffalo Bills defense. Like, that's exactly what they look like. You see, what really sums up the game is when Derrick Henry just stiff arms the crap out of Josh Norman. That is
ragdolls him.
That's the perfect just little clip. Just make a gif of that and just say, this is what happened in the game. And
that was insane, by the way. Like, that was incredible to watch. It was just fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Derrick Henry, it's incredible. He towers over everybody, and he makes people...
Isn't it incredible how a man of that size can, A, run so fast, but also so strong at the same time? I'm like, how do you do that? You're an offensive lineman at running back.
Can you imagine putting him alongside, say, Josh Allen or Cam Newton, some of those towering figures? Just, which one's running the ball, and it doesn't matter. They're going to just absolutely beat you up.
Yeah, blessed that the Titans found a quarterback in Tannehill, because they would have sucked up Cam Newton, and that would have been the end of the rest of the NFL. We would have been like, see ya, we're out.
And last thing, props to the Tennessee Titans, because they haven't really practiced at all besides their high school practices that they weren't really allowed to do. They haven't been in the facilities in 2 weeks. And to see them come back and play like they didn't miss a beat, it's absolutely incredible. And I think that the Tennessee Titans are possibly one of the biggest contenders moving into the playoffs.
Yeah, I'd love to see. Unfortunately, we don't get it in the regular season, but I'd love to see the Titans and the Chiefs face off. I think that'd be an incredible matchup. I think that as we saw with the Chiefs, the Raiders were able to stymie their offense for the most part. I think Bill Belichick laid out the blueprint for what teams need to do against this team. But I think it also comes down to the fact that Mike Vrabel, who's a great coach in his own right, knows exactly what he's doing, has the requisite talent to beat the top offenses in this league and be able to score with the top offenses in this league if he needed to. I think that the biggest surprise this year for Tennessee has been Jonnu Smith. The emergence of him at the tight end position, moving from tight end and slot receiver, and they utilize him as a running back in certain positions. He is the all-around tool that they like to utilize all over the place. I think his emergence has helped this team get over the hump from where they were last year. And they were still contenders. I think they're that much better this year.
Yeah, definitely props to the offensive coordinator for the Titans figuring out how to utilize the minimal weapons that they have right now. And I can't imagine where this offense is going to go when they have all of their weapons back. You know, that this is going to be a tough matchup, and I'm sad that we don't get to see Titans versus Kansas City like you. That would be a great matchup, and I think Tennessee would absolutely smoke them.
It'll be interesting. I hope we see it in the playoffs, even if it's an AFC championship.
Is it too much to ask to see Derrick Henry stiff arm Tyrann Mathieu? Like, that's all I want. Just to see him throw him just like he did Josh Norman.
Okay, I have a real question, though. Do his arms go down that far? Like, Tyrann Mathieu's like Dino Poquito, right? So, yeah. Derrick Henry's going to be like, excuse me, ma'am.
He might accidentally punt him like Antonio Brown did once in the day.
Oh, God. Yeah, okay. I don't know. Derrick Henry.
Or Kareem Hunt, whichever one you want to, whichever punt reference you want.
It's just crazy to me what these offensive players can do. And I have to lay it on you. I did say AJ Brown was the best receiver in that draft. He's looking quite good right about now.
He played against Josh Norman. Well, he played against Josh Norman.
Yeah, former All-Pro Josh Norman. All right.
Former. You're talking about a guy who's 11 years in the league versus a guy who's 2 years in the league, who's got the stronger legs.
In all seriousness, AJ Brown does look like an incredible wide receiver, up and coming. Like, I saw a lot of this coming out of Ole Miss. Obviously, a little bit was overlooked because who his running mate was, DK Metcalf. So the two of them on one offense, I don't know how Ole Miss didn't do a lot better in the college football playoffs. But
no, that's why you have scouts. That's why you pay scouts a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, even scouts didn't understand the value of a player like DK Metcalf or AJ Brown, and that's why these guys waited in the draft before they were chosen. It's just incredible. All right. One final topic, one more note to cover around the NFL. This actually just broke earlier today. Cardinals head coach Cliff Kingsbury confirmed that defensive end Chandler Jones will require bicep surgery, and he will end up missing the remainder of the 2020 season. Nick, do you believe that the Cardinals are now finished without their all-pro defensive end for the season?
No, absolutely not. What I saw from Chandler Jones was minimal, and it was really nothing. He had one sack in the first game where everybody seemed to be having a sack, and then he was doing nothing since. He was kind of just taking, filling a role and being a body on the field, but he did it. He got a couple pressures and that's it. He wasn't really making plays. He wasn't being Chandler Jones, and I just don't know if it's age catching up to him, or maybe there's other injuries that he was dealing with too that were holding him back. But it might be a blessing in disguise for Carolina, because now you're going to see some of their younger players step up and
Arizona.
For Arizona, some of the young players for Arizona step up and really make a difference for them. I would love to see what they can do with Isaiah Simmons now. Are they utilize him more as a linebacker or keep him as a safety? What's his role now? Does he move around? How are you going to use him as a pass rusher at all? So be very interesting to see how the Arizona Cardinals utilize this defense.
Yeah, I think the lack of production can stem from a few things. I think maybe it is age and a couple things that have built up against him, possibly injuries. But I also believe that it's offenses that are keying on Chandler Jones and saying, we're not going to let him ruin our offensive game plan. So you double him with a guard and a tight end, and you have the running back chip him in the ribs every single time. I just believe that Chandler Jones is so good at what he does. He is a top talent at defensive end. Him and Myles Garrett, I think, are the top 2 defensive ends in this league. It's going to be tough to replace that. Even though it's not stat sheet production, his pure presence on the field definitely gives them a boost. And I think without a player like him on the field, I think they're going to struggle a little bit. I think they're gonna try to find some way to get a pass rush, but I think they're gonna definitely struggle against some of the competition, especially in their own division. Chandler Jones was a huge asset for them, being able to get past the offensive line of the Rams or chase down Russell Wilson or Mr. Unlimited. I just think that Chandler Jones, after everything is said and done, is a huge loss for the Arizona Cardinals. I still have them slated as a postseason team. I think they'll be in the running for maybe that 7th spot or whatever the case is. But overall, I do believe that they'll be able to overcome it. I just think that they're gonna struggle in the coming weeks. To figure out how to replace that pass rush.
Well, it's going to be a very interesting matchup in week 6. We have no Dak Prescott and no Chandler Jones with the Cowboys and Cardinals meeting, so should be interesting.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. There's a lot of good matchups this week. If you guys have any questions, fantasy wise, or if you want to talk to us about the upcoming matchups, what you should be looking forward to, or game within the game, tell us, tweet us, shoot us a message on TikTok. We're constantly all over social media. Make sure to check out our website, and above all, start subscribing to the YouTube. Damn it. We need more subscribers. I know you're watching. You know why? I see the numbers. Listen, okay? I talked to a couple of you. You said, I watch, but I'm not subscribed. Subscribe to the channel, damn it. Ring the notification bell. We appreciate you guys. We appreciate everything you do for us, seriously. And make sure to hit us up on social media. We love talking with you guys. Until next week, peace and love, baby.